What do you represent? Are you sure about what you represent? Do you really remember who you are? Today's video is all about remembering who you are, what the concept of remembering is about, and what it means to consider what you represent, to be able to define what you represent. Welcome to the channel. I'm Kim Marie. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe, like, click the notification bell, make comments, all of that, because it helps the channel. It helps us all to engage as women on this path toward empowerment, toward knowing our true selves, toward connecting to our greatest potential. All right, so first of all, when we're remembering, even just looking at the word remember, right? Member, like they call our limbs and whatnot, our parts of our body, members of our body, okay? And so when we're remembering, we're kind of gathering them back together. And I love to think of remembering as this concept that we also have parts of our soul that have fragmented through traumas, through challenges, and we're remembering them, we're bringing them back together, we're reconnecting them. Part of remembering can be painful. It can be challenging because there might be parts of ourselves that we've cast out, that we've ignored, that we've pushed aside because those parts of ourselves were considered a trigger for someone else in our lives that maybe was abusive toward us or hurtful toward us in some way. And so we pushed that part of ourselves away and we dubbed it as bad or unacceptable. And part of remembering is gathering those parts back and remembering that they're part of us, that we want to honor all of that. And the idea of remembering is also defined as a call to mindfulness. All right, so part of it, you'll hear me say in so many of my videos that what we want to be doing is being mindful, noticing, paying attention to, honoring things, right? This is all part of the process of remembering. When we can do that, we start to bring mindfulness to everything that we do, including who we really are, right? And I want to just share here this little tidbit. I found out that there was this Old Norse god called Mimir, which is part of this member. It's like an origin in the etymology of the word remember. This Old Norse god, Mimir, who was the guardian of the well of wisdom. I loved discovering that because this idea of remembering is very much like tapping into your own inner well of wisdom. And you have so much there. That well is deep, but most of us keep a cap on it and we don't allow ourselves to explore and allow and invite ourselves in to that well that is already within us. Instead, we go seeking outside of ourselves. So that journey of remembering is very much about turning in and tuning in to all of these pieces, all of these parts of ourselves, that well of wisdom, that call to mindfulness, all of those things are part of remembering. Now, in terms of remembering and also considering what do we represent, right? I want to remember who I am, but I also want to know, what am I all about? Maybe it's partly what is my purpose. And I think that comes a little bit later after we understand what we represent. Now, what we represent is really about what we're known for. What do we want to be known for? Many of you watching are entrepreneurs. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs in my coaching and programs, and there is this aspect in entrepreneurship around, as a business, what do you want to be known for? What is it that you want others to recognize you for, right? And sadly, when we're young and we're worried about being popular or being liked or being accepted or being loved even, we sometimes end up representing something that we're not because we think that's what's going to get us those things, right? And it's really the same as we're older and in business, but now we get to come at that question more consciously. We aren't trying to determine what we want to represent just so that people will like us, just so that we will attract people into our lives, right? We want to think about what we represent in terms of, like, you might even want to think about, your eulogy. What would someone be reading at your funeral? about who you are as a person. And sure, we all want to be known as being compassionate and kind and thoughtful and considerate and loving and all of that. Many of that's very real. It's very authentic. And we're creative beings here on this incredible journey. And most likely, we want to be known for certain, maybe creative gifts, maybe certain expressions or ways in which we make people feel or whatever it is. And it's really important to think about that when you're thinking and asking that question, what do I represent, right? And so even the word, if we break down that word, represent, to present is to place before. So we're going to place ourselves before the world in a new way, place ourselves before, again, with a reevaluation of what we really want to be known for. Which a great way to tune into what we want to represent or how we want to show up placed before the world is to tap into our values. Now, our values and what we care about, those are really synonymous with one another, and our emotions inform us about those. If we get really angry about something, chances are we care about something, and we care about it so deeply that we value it, right? And if we feel really sad or we're grieving something or someone, chances are we really cared about it and it really mattered to us. Or it's a cause that's super important. We have a certain value. So when we start to pay attention to our values, sadly, so often our values are predetermined. We're living our values unconsciously based on the values of society, what society or culture deems as right or wrong, good or bad, appropriate or inappropriate. And we want to be challenging that. We want to be looking at, who says it's not appropriate to stand up and dance in the theater when I'm listening to, the symphony or whatever. Like, who says that? We have to start looking at what really moves us, in terms of our values and what we care about, what we might want to be known for, what we might want to express in the world. That's what's going to help us to, represent ourselves to the world in the way that we want to. Now, if we think of a courtroom, an attorney represents their client. And so they're speaking on behalf of, right? So what do you want in the world that is going to speak on behalf of you? Is there work, creative work that you want to do in the world that speaks on behalf of you? Is there effort and action in the world that you do that speaks on behalf of you? Are there words that you speak that speak on behalf of you, that really represent who you are, that you're not necessarily paying attention to, okay? So this idea of remembering who you are and what you represent is so key in terms of being able to move forward and then re-envision yourself, your life, how you're going to show up differently maybe according to what you've now remembered and determined you represent or reconnected to with your values. This is the journey I take my clients on through the coaching process that I do, and also through my program called Solace. There's a link in the description, you can check that out. But everything I do is about this journey, every detail, there's some free downloads also in the description that you can check out that are tools ultimately to help you on this path of remembering who you are, determining what you represent, helping yourself connect to the values that are yours, uniquely yours, so that you can feel empowered as the creative, empowered being that you are here to be, realizing your full potential and honoring that. All right, I hope that's helpful. I'd love to hear in the comments any thoughts you have around these ideas. Do you remember who you are? Do you know what you represent? Are you able to maybe even succinctly share it with us in just a sentence or two? Like, are you that clear about who you are and what you represent? I'd love to hear in the comments. Share below. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time.